Now, we all know the attention blow-up that this Michigan scandal with Connor Stalions has caused. It's still all over the news. There's more information that comes out every day. And now it seems to have bled its way into South Carolina, being accused of using the sign stealing from Michigan to beat Tennessee. Now, I'm sure this won't be the last of us hearing about more and other teams doing it. We've already talked about how pretty much everyone steals signs to a certain extent. Some are more discreet than others, and some are more in-depth than others. But there are two things that I think everybody should remember in this situation. One is a folly of arrogance, and the other is a warning. Now, Michigan probably wouldn't be getting drugged by the college football realm, and to this extent, if they didn't portray a holier-than-thou attitude, and that they're the cleanest of the clean and the purest of the pure. See, Michigan wants you to know that not only are they better than you at what you love the most, being college football, but they don't have to get down and dirty to be able to do it. We see it with how they handle real-world problems. They're always pushing to be the most progressive and inclusive. Turns out, you guys are just as dirty as the rest of us. And you know what? I love it. I'm here for it. Now, the second is for those out there that are piling on Michigan, throwing stones from your ivory tower. If this can happen to Michigan, it can damn sure happen to your team. And I hate to tell you, they're stealing signals too. And the further you keep digging down this rabbit hole, South Carolina won't be the only team who gets brought into the crosshairs in this discussion. Next, it could be your team. So I would caution everyone rooting for more info to come out and for this to bury Michigan and Jim Harbaugh, because maybe the dirt will start piling up on your team's casket. So remember, I told you. I'm going to bring in my co-host, former Michigan quarterback, David Cohn, who I do want to say has been very across the board when it comes to dealing with scandals at other schools. We've talked about Tattoo-gate. We've talked about all the stuff that's gone on at other institutions that you didn't play at, and you've been very consistent with how you felt about it. So, having played somewhere, it's just like if ever I say anything good about Auburn, being an Auburn fan, people are like, oh, well, you're an Auburn fan. Well, I'm harder on Auburn than anybody.
That's how I feel,
you say
too.
10 things that aren't positive, then you say one positive thing, and that's just the society we live in. And to my right, y'all know what today is. It's time. Roll that bad boy.
This is flaming chocolate!
Yes, it is.
1.5.
1.5. It's Friday.
The year of the dragon.
If you're new to the show, we can't use his government name. It's 1.5, so we get no, I'm not. I can say it once if it's at 1.5. A lot of times the callers try and, persuade me to say it or trick me into saying it.
Don't put this on the people.
No, I've danced this dance many a times, buddy. This ain't Footloose. Flaming Dragon, obviously my right, former Western State, Colorado wide receiver. David, I want to start with this, and I don't want to stay on this too long because it seems like, we have to hit this every day because something new happens. I'll again go back to the people that used to make fun of, oh, well, your team's paying players to go there. And you know what? Pretty much everybody was paying players, but there's one guy who was the best at it. The best at it. Y'all know who I'm talking about. They've had a lot of success. I'm not trying to get Hillary Clinton, so I'm not going to say his name, but y'all know exactly who I'm talking about. Everybody cheats. Some people are just better at it. But there's some gray area here, David, because sign stealing is not illegal. Now, sending somebody to a future opponent's games, which we don't have proof of that, but they did say that now the FBI and the NCAA are both at Michigan. Boy, you talk about two organizations that I couldn't trust as far as I could throw them. Not a good situation.
Well,
I didn't do anything.
The gray area is what this is all about. So when you say the word cheating, it's like, well, that's what we're trying to get to the bottom of here. Like, were there loopholes that were exploited? And when you talk about these other fan bases, not wanting to point fingers at other schools, what you're saying to me is there's a reason why the coaches are kind of like, hey, can we not focus on this so much? But the fans and the media are really wanting to make it a news story every single day. Like, there's a reason for that. But the NCAA is now in Ann Arbor. They're at Michigan. So at least, like, hey, Can we just get to the bottom of whatever the situation is? Yeah, they're going to the little brown jug. Stop by for a burger. Make sure you get the mozzarella sticks. Don't talk to Blaine about it, though. Here's the thing. The NCAA, right off the bat.
That's an early one. Hey, man, look, sometimes...
Hey, you're on point right now.
Sometimes, look, you're hot. You're hot.
On the times we come back from Vegas, it never works out well. I'm still on Pacific time. Okay? Here's the thing. The NCAA is the IRS. They're the IRS.
They are.
They have these vague rules, right? These bylaws. And, somebody in the neighborhood got a new boat, and the rest of the neighbors are like, hey, this guy over there is finding that gray area. Let's call the IRS. Let's get them in there to investigate. And then all of a sudden, wait, the IRS is now in your books, and they say you owe $8,500 in back taxes. And you're like, no, I follow all the rules. No, we just told you owe $8,500 in back taxes.
What are you going to do?
What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? You think South Carolina, the only reason they beat Tennessee is because, they were involved in a sign.
If you watch that game...
come on, man.
If you watch that game, that's not the truth. But I will say, the report, not the truth that South Carolina didn't have their signs or signals, but South Carolina won that game, all right? And you see the Tennessee fans that are the real ones, they admit that. If you want to make excuses, like I said, if I want to hear excuses, I'll interview prisoners. You lost that game because South Carolina was the better team on that day and you slept on them. That's what happened. Now, Flaming Dragon, a report did come out that TCU knew that Michigan had their signals. So what do? They use it in their favor.
Wow.
You can use it as a strength. You have to change your signals up all the time. Some guys don't. Our buddy Steven Garcia, who played at South Carolina for Steve Spurrier, said Steve Spurrier's had the same signals for 30 years. People knew him, still couldn't stop it. But TCU used it against Michigan. I would love, it's like in betting. I would love to know that somebody had my signals and they believed I was going to use them.
Yes.
And I wasn't going to change because that's a weapon. It's like if I know somebody that makes bad bets and I'm going to take the opposite. Because if you don't know, then I do know, right? I can fade them. So it's, again, it seems like a personal, petty vendetta. And I will caution everybody, you want to start opening up the books. Like you're saying around the whole neighborhood, hey, how did Chad get a boat? He's 42 years old, lives with his parents, and plays Call of Duty all day. How can he afford, that boat and that Sea-Doo? All right, let's start opening the books up on everybody then, because I don't think you're going to like where this ends up.
Well, at this point, I'd be more pissed if I found out that my team wasn't stealing.
That's a great point.
That means you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah,
all right,
you don't care enough.
You have to realize, and for all the goodies out there, you got to realize college football is the mob. All right, it's what it is. It's not a clean game. The more you want to run down this rabbit hole, the dirtier it's going to get. And next, a bunch of guys in suits are going to show up to your house and demoralize you when you open the door. The thing about Michigan, this isn't the most egregious thing they've done, in my opinion. I mean, you go back, what's his name, Matt Weiss? The old offensive coordinator. I mean, that whole scandal.
That's a weird.
That whole scandal with the FBI.
That may be the catalyst.
That may be how this all started. I agree.
Computers and all.
And the worst thing at all, I mean, you hire a woman to coach your quarterbacks. Let's be honest. That's the worst thing.
Well, that's what I think the punishment should be.
That's the worst thing you did.
That's what Jake thinks the punishment.
The punishment should be she has to call the plays for a game.
Please,
nobody
no.
Can
if they play Indiana or something,
nobody can help.
It won't matter.
Nobody can help.
Stop it.
Hey, I like this. That, in my opinion, should be.
I do want to talk about your point on the holier than thou, because I saw you tweet this, and I had just gotten off the phone with one of my buddies. We went to the University of Michigan together, and I was like, Jake, you're spot on about this, because reputation matters so much, not just to Michigan alums, but also to the administration. And that's a good thing, right? You want to be proud of your university and that you have integrity and high character and everything that comes with that and being a Michigan man. But one of the things about it is, and there's a lot of the Michigan fan base right now that's like, hey, what are the details? Did our football program actually cheat? And if so, what are the punishments for that? And can we just get over this? We don't want to be in the spotlight for having done something wrong. But a lot of it, too, is if you're going to start winning and you're going to be on top, which is just so funny we're having to deal with this without Michigan having even won a national championship yet. We're just talking about
better win
back-to-back. Yeah, you better win now. Because now, because people are going to make fun of you either way, it's sort of like the Astros. Now, at least the Astros went and got another World Series. Now, if you lose a game, though, everybody's just going to talk about, oh, you didn't have the signals this time around or whatever. Well, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to say, people say the same thing about Auburn and Cam Newton. Look, I know Auburn paid Cam Newton. Y'all know Auburn paid Cam Newton. Everybody's paying everybody. Like, oh, well, y'all had to buy Cam Newton and he had still laptop in Florida. Guess what? I don't care.
And that happened around the same time, right?
Say whatever you want. You know what I remember?
We paid Cam Newton?
Yeah. You know what I remember? That field goal going through against Oregon to win the national championship. I remember that. Say whatever you want. Say whatever you want. And you know what? At some point in Michigan, look, I mean, what did Spencer Rattler say to just tie this thing up in a nice little bow? If they ain't hating, you ain't popping.
Well, and that's my main point here when it comes to the fan base and the administration who don't like dealing with any sort of bad publicity or anything. A lot of it is, well, how do you really truly want to be the best team in college football? Because everyone's going to have to deal with some of this type of stuff. Like, do you remember the NCAA investigation into Michigan 10 years ago with practicing for too many hours? Not many people remember it. Why? Because Michigan wasn't good when Rich Rodriguez was there.
Right.
I do, because I had to sit across from the NCAA and answer all of these stupid questions that they were asking. Oh, was it mandatory that you had to practice for more than 40 hours a week? 40 hours a week? You think there's any college football program in the country that's practicing for less than 40 hours?
There's a better chance somebody's practicing for 40 hours in a day, which is 24 hours.
Are you kidding me? Like, you don't think that your team, right? Like, the NCAA could come in right now and find something on every single team in the country. We got accused of practicing for more than 40 hours a week, but even there, what was the gray area? The word mandatory. Was it mandatory? I went in and told the NCAA when they asked me, I said, I don't know if workouts in the summer were mandatory. I could technically not be there.
Well, here's the thing. It's like, you know, during the summer, you go and throw those 7-on-7s at the practice field where the coaches can't be there. All right, well, I'm not technically there, but I may be parked a little bit of ways away.
And that's what
looking
we're talking
and watching.
About here.
Like, if people really understood, like, you know who may be the happiest person about this is Juwan Howard. Because you know what nobody's talking about? Him literally slapping the other coach. I don't think that guy...
When that happened, what did I say?
Oh, you were...
What did I say when that happened?
You said Juwan...
I'm the worst Michigan homer there is in sports media.
God, you know, just the rest of college piss is that y'all got caught stealing signs because now they can't do it.
Yeah. No, but I love the point about the coaches being like, nothing to see here, move along now. Yeah, move along, nothing to see. College basketball's around the corner. The NBA's about to start. We got Major League Baseball playoffs. We're pretty much in the World Series. College football, the NFL, and DraftKings Sportsbook, they've got you covered in every single sport. Now, with basketball upon us, there's a lot of people that are putting in a lot of futures. And let's be honest, it's more fun when you're in on the action. And if you download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now and use our code CRANE, C-R-A-I-N, you can get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 on NFL football. Basically halfway through the season, we haven't even touched the playoffs yet. That's only on DraftKings Sportsbook with our code CRANE, C-R-A-I-N. Please bet responsibly, but with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Let's start off with Brocky. What's up, man? He says, it's such a shame this is all going on because it's legitimately the best Michigan program since 1997 with Charles Woodson and Steve Hutchinson, etc.
Yeah, I'll do you one better. This is one of the most fun college football.
Thank you. That's what I was about to say.
That I can remember, because there's not, and I feel like I say this on every show, but there's not that golden team, right? We still don't know. If there is a golden team, I guess you could say it's Michigan. I'm not talking about the color scheme of the school. But when I look at this college football season, I do not want it to be tainted, especially something like this. Look, if Michigan had legitimately done something super nefarious that we're all obviously like, yeah, man, you can't do that, then that's one thing. But this is watering down what has been one of the most exciting and parity-filled seasons. And we don't know how it's going to end up. Who the hell knows? You can end up having Bama and Georgia and the Blue Bloods in it at the end. But at least up to this point, it has been such a fun college football season, and I don't want it tainted by something as not ridiculous, but as overblown as what this is in the scope of reality.
I agree 100%. That's what I was thinking. It's been such a great college football season, which really, to me, I keep hearing Tim Brando's words over and over again in my mind. When stories like this come out in the middle of the season, because we've been told this investigation started a while ago, right? The whole Cam Newton thing at Auburn, when that came out, that was like, people knew about that before the season. Why all of a sudden in the middle of a great college football season did these stories start to leak? Really have to let Tim Brando's words about the NCAA sees their strength stranglehold on the sport starting to lessen, so they try and weaken it. Now, I go back to earlier this year when the unfortunate situation happened with Brandon Miller and Alabama basketball right as we were entering conference play or NCAA tournament play. That was a situation that was a little bit different because you have someone who lost their life. And even that was unfortunate that it became such a big national story in the middle of what was a great college football season. But, you know, I had someone asking me about that, and it's like anytime someone has died, that's different than what we're talking about with scouting.
Like we're talking about stealing. I mean, I don't even like the term stealing.
You can't use it.
Like if I'm out there like in plain view doing something and you observe it, all right, and how you attain that those observations, to me we can sit here and have this argument, but the term stealing signs, it already puts it in such like all of a sudden it's like Watergate.
Yeah.
You know, like you got guys with flashlights in there looking at like filing cabinets, like they're just rappelling from the ceiling inside of Ohio State's, you know, football facility into the coach's office, like Tom Cruise, you know, in Mission Impossible with the music going on behind. It's out there for everybody to see.
Let's go to Aaron Demers. He says, I want the FBI to do the investigation on the NCAA and see what turns up.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
now
you want a real story? You want a real Who monitors the NCAA?
I'm getting popped.
That's the real question, right? What's the checks and balances? There's no like, all right, well, the legislative branch, the executive branch, there's no checks and balances on the NCAA. Like, they don't have the power to, like, subpoena people and stuff like that, but they are, at least for now, the governing body with no checks and balances. I mean, you have J. Edgar Hoover's son, you know, J. Edgar Jr., whatever the hell his name was. I don't even know if he had a son, but that's basically what the NCAA is.
Let's go to TP. He says, going and recording 40 of your opponent's games, recording them, and then uploading them to shared drive for coaches isn't a loophole.
Well, okay, so you know they record all these games.
All of them.
On film,
in 4K.
and you mandatorily have to send that film to your opponent. In conference, you have conference guidelines and you have NCAA guidelines outside of that. I'm going to go and tell you, so let me ask you this. How is that any different? How is that any different from a coach calling another coach who just played the team they're about to play and say, hey, what did y'all do that worked? What did y'all do that liked? Hey, give me a heads up. It's no different. It's no different at all. Coaches talk, all right? It's a lot smaller community than I think a lot of people understand. Coaches use each other to help because a lot of these guys coached with each other, are coached for one of these guys. Mm-hmm. Like that's what, you know the best part about having a coaching tree outside of helping guys advance their life and take care of their family and things like that? You have spies everywhere. Absolutely everywhere, and they owe you. They're in debt to you. You have got to stop looking at this thing like it is some pure lemonade stand operation in some suburb out in Sunnydale with a bunch of 11-year-olds. This is a billion-dollar industry. Coaches are paid to win games. They will do what they have to do to be able to operate at their highest level where they got to call an old assistant, they've got to upload something on a drive. There is so many cheat sheets that are out there. We used to give our players cheat sheets, even for special teams in the scouting report that's on there. So again, I'm just telling you guys, the reason this isn't going to go any further because everybody's guilty. Everybody's guilty to a certain extent.
So we're expected to believe in this, that the 4K footage, everyone can see the signals every game day. I could go look at Tennessee and Alabama game signals from last week because I do this when I do the huddle ups.
David, Antonio Cromartie and me were talking on Twitter yesterday. Antonio Cromartie played a long time, hell of a player, knows football. He said, dude, we used to take the game tape from the TV because you can hear the quarterback saying what the check is at the offensive line. We used to get protections because, like, if you're watching, right, this Sunday in the NFL, just listen. You can hear the quarterback. I literally heard Baker Mayfield last night. LeBron James, or Josh Allen, one of the two. Like, I'm telling you guys, this is an operation. This is $1 billion industry. Some of y'all really got to start understanding this is not some clean, everybody just all across the world. Like,
but
no,
we're expected to believe that with that capability, the 4K footage that we can see, and that's required to give the teams, the filming from electronic devices, we're required to believe here that a fan going with an iPhone and sitting on the 40-yard line somehow gets higher quality footage or better footage. And again, this may speak to just how much Michigan actually messed up. Like maybe this guy Connor Stallions, who apparently wrote something called the Michigan Manifesto, which I'm already thinking two things. One, anybody who writes something called a manifesto, it never ends up well. But also, two, we care that much finally?
Dude,
we care that much that we're trying to win? Okay, maybe he just really thought he found a loophole, and this guy in the chat who wrote that comment is right. Because my thinking is, you're former military, you're covert ops, you figured out a way to like actually dissect all this information and give, again, it's just statistics, right? You're giving the coordinators information and saying, you use it how you want. Don't all out blitz just because they used to use some signal. They may have changed it, right? Which is what TCU's saying they did. But we did all that, but we're still sending like Venmo payments online, or we're not like, he's not covering his track. So makes me think like either one, he really just thought he was smarter than he was, but really he messed up. Or two, he's didn't actually like break any of the rules. And he's like, no, these payments aren't for what you guys are saying they are, because the NCAA still hasn't told us what exactly is going on. The media has told us, not the NCAA, but the NCAA also requires the people who are under investigation, i.e. Michigan here, that they're not allowed to speak and defend themselves.
Yeah. What's up, everybody on YouTube? Hey, if you have a second, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button on the videos, and turn that notification bell on. We'd really appreciate it. You don't have to be a scientist to figure out it helps the algorithm on YouTube. And again, we appreciate you watching.